It was always going to be tough following up on one of the best games of last generation. Sony Santa Monica did such a good job with God of War 2018, reimagining the story of Kratos and delivering a hard-hitting story with great action. The weight of expectation was almost palpable. Today, I'm going to bring you my review of God of War Ragnarok. It's worth saying that this review is going to steer clear of major spoilers. There's so much in the game that is best experienced when you play through the game rather than it be spoiled. I'd recommend steering clear of spoilers if you possibly can. I'd like to start off by saying God of War Ragnarok is absolutely fantastic and lived up to my very high expectations. I played through the original in 2018 and then played through it again recently to get ready for God of War Ragnarok. And this sequel manages to deliver when it comes to narrative, performance and action. Visually it's stunning and the audio work is equally good. It's a really big game as well and manages to keep a great pace throughout the game, twisting and turning, taking you from one location to the other rapidly, mixing up the gameplay like puzzles, exploration, action, and also boss fights as well. While you can come to this game fresh, I would definitely recommend playing through God of War 2018 if you want to get the most out of God of War Ragnarok. There is a catch-up video or animation on the start menu of Ragnarok, and while it does give you the main story beats, it doesn't really fill you in on the major detail. So Ragnarok picks up the story a few years after the final moments of God of War. Atreus is older and much more capable now. Before he had trouble looking after himself, but now Atreus is hunting, fully able to take care of himself, and every now and again even manages to surprise Kratos. Well, he's no longer a child, and Kratos knows that, and he knows he's going to have to let him go soon. Well, the apocalypse is coming in the form of Ragnarok. Fimbulwinter has laid a thick blanket of snow and ice across Midgard, although as Mimir comments in the game, Fimbulwinter affects all the realms in different ways. Atreus is hungry to learn more about his prophecy, and he wants to find out more about his giant named Loki, and wants Kratos to trust his judgment. So God of War Ragnarok gets you into the action very quickly on the back of a sled, being pulled along by wolves, followed up by a very touching moment that really brought me very close to tears. That's a great example of the game grabbing you by the scruff of the neck, almost dragging you into the screen, and saying, strap in, you are going for a ride. The scale of God of War Ragnarok is really, really impressive. So God of War 2018 was tight in its goal and also its storytelling. The idea was simple. Kratos and Atreus had to climb a mountain and spread the ashes of Kratos' dead wife, as per her instructions. Along the way, you travelled to different realms, but the goal was very, very clear. Here, in God of War Ragnarok, the scale and the scope has been increased. This one is a huge game. You travel across multiple realms and the cast is expanded to an ensemble cast, rather than just focusing on the father and son relationship between Kratos and Atreus. So while the game is big, in set pieces, action, length and scale, it manages to take you along for the ride, and really, there is rarely a dull moment. God of War Ragnarok is all about prophecy and whether a character's destiny is set in stone or not. Sony Santa Monica take their time with the characters and dig deep into the themes, giving each character their time to shine. Sometimes this is through the main campaign, and often it's through side quests which have been really expanded in God of War Ragnarok, and they are much better. The story is great for the side quests and complements the main campaign, and the rewards are fitting for the time invested in those side quests. So this story is a great way to wrap up Kratos' Norse saga. Sony Santa Monica said they wanted to finish up the Norse story in 2 parts, otherwise they'd be working on the Norse storyline for about 15 years in total. The story is fantastic and it introduces plenty of new characters. Odin and Thor have been featured in the trailer for Ragnarok, and both of them deliver superb performances. There is a distinct mafia feel about them both, with Odin pulling the strings and Thor acting as the muscle. The art direction and the character design is excellent too, and we're really used to seeing Thor as part of the MCU, and this is a very different depiction of him in Ragnarok. Well, there's plenty of other characters as well. I don't really want to go into them because it's a spoiler territory, but the cast of actors, they just add so much to the game. Sony Santa Monica have done a great job in capturing their performance. There's so much heart in the performance and so much emotion in the delivery. Kratos is truly sullen. His past trauma surfaced in every word he utters. There's still room for brevity in the narrative. Loads of moments where you're going to laugh out loud. Christopher Judge takes his performance to the next level as Kratos. Overlooked in 2018 when Arthur Morgan's voice actor took home the Game Awards trophy, this year, to be honest, I really can't see past Christopher Judge for his performance as Kratos. It was really, really exceptional. Sonny Suljic does a great job with Atreus. At first, you aren't sure if it's the same voice actor, but it is, and he still plays the character really, really well, portraying a curious teenager, one who wants the trust of his father, but goes about it in very interesting ways. You've got Sindri, Brock, and Mimir. They are back, and this time their characters get much more time to shine, and we learn about their collective backstories, with Mimir formerly serving Odin, and all the trouble he used to get up to, plus the eventful backstory of our two favourite blacksmith dwarves. Altogether, they breathe more life into this adventure, all adding to the scale of God of War Ragnarok. Well, the combat in Ragnarok has been upgraded as well, now with much more emphasis on elemental attacks. Kratos has access to his full weaponry from the first game, meaning a good combination of fire and ice. The axe still feels great to throw, although I found myself getting a much more up close and personal this time round, whereas in 2018 I found I would stand back and pick off enemies from a distance. Something has changed about the combat in Ragnarok. It's not quite Elden Ring levels of combat, not at all, but there is much more to it. So at times the combat does feel button mashy, although I'm only playing it on normal difficulty, and I'm sure if you crank up the difficulty, then it probably would be more intricate. Combat still feels great, although the blades don't quite feel like they have the weight to them this time round. For some reason, they feel much lighter than the axe. Also, word of warning, God of War Ragnarok is pretty violent, so much like 2018's God of War, but this seemed to raise it up another notch or two. Kratos is going to be ripping enemies in two, slicing them in half, stabbing them, hacking off their arms, and all this takes place as finishing moves. So it is fun the first few times. After a while, it does get a little bit tiring and shocking. While I'm tearing through loads of enemies in this way, it also takes time for these animations, and that is time where I could be going on the offensive or getting on with the story. Well, the new elemental attacks are a great addition. It would feel strange going back to the original now without them. By holding down the triangle button with the axe in hand, that now gets covered in frost. You can throw it in for an ice attack. Similar, but with the opposite element with the blades. Now you stand there whirring the blades around in a circle before throwing them at your enemy for a fiery attack. Shields also play more of a role in this one. So quite early on in the game you get to select a shield that's either going to absorb loads of attacks, or you get one where parrying is rewarded. And at first I took the one that was going to absorb the attacks, but I quickly got tired of that and chose the parrying shield, and this one felt much better. Runic attacks are back, and they are definitely a welcome addition to your arsenal. So while it does feel satisfying taking on smaller enemies, there is a sense of going through the motions at times with the combat. I don't know if it's because I played God of War 2018 right before playing Ragnarok, but the combat did start to feel a little bit samey, and I was wanting to simply get through it to get to the boss fight or the next chapter of the story. Boss fights are really grand in scale. They are impressive set pieces as they were in the first game, although they feel leveled up in Ragnarok. Bosses range from big monsters to fighting smaller one-on-one fights, and they all go above and beyond what was in God of War 2018. Puzzles are fairly often through the campaign, mainly as you navigate the land trying to get from A to B with Atreus. Puzzles tend to be redirecting water or getting across bridges or unlocking doors, that kind of thing. They are entertaining and they're very different than the combat. I did find a little bit they interrupted the flow, and I found myself completing puzzles more often. The biggest negative about the game is Kratos' companions don't leave enough time for you to solve the puzzle by yourself. You arrive at a puzzle and it's only a few seconds before Atreus or Mimir literally tell you how to solve the puzzle. Now, I couldn't find anything in the settings to turn this off. You can increase the timer to give yourself a few more seconds, but ultimately they are just going to give you the solution. I imagine this is going to be great for some players, but it didn't work for me. If the puzzles are going to be there, then I want to solve them myself. Otherwise, they just seem a little bit pointless. Kratos and co travel from realm to realm often in this game, plus we get to see loads of new realms, which we haven't seen, and that was really, really exciting. The size and the scale of these play spaces are impressive, as are the variety in the enemies and the location design. So as you explore each place, Nordic lore is presented in the form of collectibles, and it's worth going through all the lore at some point. And it's all really, really well written and interpreted from Sony Santa Monica. Kratos does return to realms he's been to before, but they are changed, and there are differing enemies to make it feel updated. And it is really, really good to go back to old locations and recognise the changes, but it's even better going to these new locations. Overall, God of War Ragnarok is an excellent sequel. It somehow manages to go above and beyond the original game to give us a great ending to Kratos and Atreus' Norse adventures. There's also so many first-class efforts here from Sony Santa Monica, including writing, performance, artwork, character modelling, audio design, combat. The game is a true 10 out of 10 in every way. I don't think it's a perfect video game by any stretch. It is quite similar to 2018's God of War, albeit turned up to 11. So one thing I am certain of, this release is going to cement Sony Santa Monica as one of the best developers in the world, right up there with Naughty Dog and the Zelda team from Nintendo. Whatever they do next, sign me up. I'm absolutely interested. Well, the game was developed by Sony Santa Monica, as published by PlayStation Studios. It's available for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. Originally, it was released on the 9th of November 2022. Well, that is it for my review of God of War Ragnarok. Really, really good fun, and definitely recommend playing it. This has got to be one of the best games out there for the PS5 right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. Hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. Or check me out on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you soon.